Why can't you apply it towards formulas that get you new synthetic drugs that are derivatives of the drugs that we're currently seeing on the market? The meths, the fentanyls, the others. You certainly could use it in that regard.
Yeah.
You could certainly use it in trying to understand what are the defenses that exist that you're confronting in terms of how many law enforcement are available, what units actually are investigating you or could investigate you in certain spaces, and maybe you want to avoid those spaces. And we haven't even gotten to the sort of elements that can enter into AI warfare, drones and others. So just leaving all those aside. So you can see all these multiple ways in which, if you're a criminal that is creative in any way, shape, or form, of course you are having your people stick their noses into AI.
Have you been able to confirm any of that? Seeing any cartels that are starting to use AI?
Well, we know they're using drones in Michoacan, for example, and presumably those are in some way, shape, or form connected to AI. Increasingly, those are AI run machines. There's certainly lots of activity around cybercrime these days.
Yeah.
We are increasingly tracking big cybercrime groups. Most of them run out of Brazil. Brazil is sort of the epicenter of cybercrime in the region. And yeah, those are just a couple of examples, but nothing that jumps out more than, because you don't necessarily see in criminal indictments the prosecutors talking through the use of AI, at least not yet. But there may be, you can take guesses at sort of where they might go. And I think we just need to look at the way in which we approach AI is going to be very similar. It's like anything else. It's like the global financial system or the global trade system. The criminals, in essence, follow those leads. They become part of the global economy. They become part of the global financial system. They're following the major trends. It's very much a hide in plain sight approach, and I would presume the same is going to happen with AI.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's the chase to be on top from the CJ&G and the Sinaloa Cartel. The CJ&G seems to be the cartel that's more, I would say, current, or it seems like a younger demographic. So then that would lean me to say that they're probably the ones who would be toying with AI or different technologies more often than the Sinaloa Cartel. Is that something you would probably agree with?
I think that both are split up into various factions, and there are probably some factions that are a little bit more sophisticated than others. Maybe some are trending younger, and that would help them to be more in tune with things like AI or use of social media or these communications platforms, and understanding which communications platforms to use, or how to maybe use AI to create their own language so that they can communicate. There's a lot of things they can do with this, but I don't have any sense necessarily that one is younger than the other. I do get a sense that there's kind of a generational war going on right now in Sinaloa, with the kind of chapitos, let's call it, trending younger versus the mayos, and let's call that trending older. So in that regard, I see even within the Sinaloa Cartel a generational divide. But I don't know. I couldn't tell you with any certainty about the sort of median age of people in the Jalisco Cartel. What is clear about the Jalisco Cartel is that they are very interested in building an army. And that is different from what you get when you think about the Sinaloa cartel. They're much more interested in having bespoke units that are connected to specific factions that are very loyal, whereas the Jalisco cartel is reaching out and recruiting forcibly, from what we can see, forcibly, very often forcibly, huge numbers of people, just saying to other criminal groups, te alineas o te mueres, like you're in or you're dead. So that's the Jalisco cartel model, which is much more built around control of physical space, building out an army, pushing out and in sort of a geographic way, whereas the Sinaloa cartel is much more about strategic placing, control of specific officials, that much more sort of surgical approach.
It's a lot of things are coming to light here, and in 2024 TD Bank was hit with a record $3 billion fine over drug cartel money laundering. We also had another gentleman on here that was part of an investigation on money laundering, and a bank was involved. How are they starting to get more diversified in the money laundering space?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We always, I guess we don't always start with the bank, but the bank cases are the ones that catch our attention, because they do remain very, very large cases, and they are still the predominant way in which these in which money is moved. I think we are very focused now on crypto. I think rightfully so. I think this is where we're going, but I still think it's a rather small percentage of the money laundering that's happening. When I say small percentage, I'm guessing, but like a quarter or less of the money laundering could be happening in the crypto realm. The crypto realm isn't big enough yet really to handle all of this stuff, and it's still an outlier. Of course, it's very important, and of course we have to keep an eye on it. But it's interesting that, and I think good that you start with a case that has to do with a traditional bank, a bank that we recognize, a bank that we've seen on television and commercials, because this is where it's happening, and not enough of those cases are made. We have done many money laundering investigations from a journalistic standpoint, and what always stands out to me is how few of these cases there are.